Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Kenrick Hansen. I am chairman of the Neighborhood Alliance, and I want to welcome you. Neighborhood Alliance is a co-sponsor of tonight's organization with the New London Parents Advocates, the New London chapter of the NAACP, and the League of Women Voters. I am new to the chair. I just want to say something about the Neighborhood Alliance. We're in a rebuilding effort, and in come January of the new year, we'll be looking to do a reorganization and regrowth of the alliance. So please contact me if you want some information about that, and we'll see how it goes in January. I'd like to introduce to you from the New London Parent Advocates, Ms. Regina Nickerson.
It's actually Regina Mosley now, but thank you very much, Ted. That's all right, no worries. Listen, the government knows me by both names, so it's okay. I am Regina Mosley. I am from the New London Parent Advocates, and we are proud and honored to be co-sponsoring this event with the Southeastern Connecticut League of Women Voters, the NAACP New London chapter, and the LWV, of course. My flyer also said Centro de la Comunidad, so I just want to give them a shout out as well. The New London Parent Advocates also is in the process of rebuilding. We are open to all parents of New London. There's no charge. All you have to do is be passionate about what's happening in the district, in the school system. Whether your children are out of district at Grasso Tech, if you are a New London parent, you are welcome. And on that note, I would like to just again thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to co-sponsor with you. And please welcome Ms. Jean Jordan from the NAACP.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for allowing us to participate in this tonight. And I just want to say to you that the City Council and the Board of Education, most people think they're equally important. I'm going to tell you honestly, I think the board is more important, and the reason why is that they are the ones that are representing those who cannot vote, the youth of the city. They are the ones who are going to be leading the policy that our youth will have to go under in the schools. They are also, because this is a magnet school district, representing those students outside of New London. So this board is just not for those of them children in New London, but they represent those also outside of New London because we are a magnet school district. So I ask you to please listen and choose wisely because they are the ones who are going to make the policy for our youth in New London. Remember, African proverb says, it takes a village to raise a family. This is our village. They're the ones who are going to be in charge. So again, I'd like to say thank you. And I'd like to introduce the moderator, Marilyn Mackey. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome. We have with us tonight 10 people. Unfortunately, Peg Curtin is not well and she couldn't be here tonight, but she sends her very best. Our time is very short, so I hope you will hold all applause and outbursts to the end after everybody is finished because we really don't have the time for it. Questions will be from 7 to 8. The questions will be 1 minute long and there are 30-second rebuttals. Each candidate is allowed 3 rebuttals for the entire debate tonight. At 8 o'clock, there will be a 90-second closing statement by each of the 10. So if you do your math, you'll see we will be out of here by about 8:20, 8:30, and they lock up at 9, so you can talk to the people at the table between 8:30 and 9. But again, for the actual program, it's tight. Okay, I guess I stand here. I'm going to kick off with the very first question. Our timekeepers are in the front row, and they will give 15-second notices toward the end of the 1 minute or the 30 seconds. so that the people know how much time they have remaining. And we are going to start the first question with group 1, the second question with group 2, the third question, yes I will, group 3, and then we'll go back to 1. In terms of introduction, we are going from this end, which is left, to right at the far end. If you're seated properly, you are. Robert Funk, Democrat incumbent. Myrna Martinez, Green and Republican incumbent. Jason Kitala, Democrat challenger. Group 2, Scott Garbini, Democrat incumbent. Jefferson Harris, Republican challenger. Zach Levy, Democrat challenger. Group 3, Sylvia Potter, Democrat incumbent. Aracelis Vasquez Hay, Democrat incumbent. Joe Garachi, Republican challenger. And Jason Morris, Green Party challenger. Okay, did it work? We are now going to kick off with the very first question. Everybody knows who their timer is? You are group 1?
I'm the first person I put on.
Okay, as long as everybody knows it. Okay, question number 1, we will begin with Robert Funk. The question comes from the NAACP. Parents, teachers, and students have all at one point or another complained about the environmental hazards associated with some of or older buildings. What steps will you take to ensure that our schools are environmentally safe places for learning?
The biggest challenge, I think, is pretty well known to be at Benny Dover with some of the. Sorry. Okay. The biggest challenge is at Benny Dover Jackson, where, as many of you know, we've had challenges with our HVAC system and environmental hazards at the high school. Obviously, it costs money to take care of those issues, and the long-term plan is replacement of those facilities through the building of the new schools, but that's several years down the road. So in the short-term plan, I understand that we just recently received a grant, a sizable grant for several $1 million that we can use for renovation and capital expenditures for schools. So that's one of the ways of meeting that need, and the other being that we'll put a little bit more money in the budget this year for maintenance. We want to add more money next year for maintenance, but part of the challenge in that is working out with the city their responsibilities versus the responsibilities of the district.
Thank you. Myrna?
Good evening. So yes, we do have the additional $3 million for the low performing school grant that we'll be able to put into play. We also have an MOU that's been approved by the board for a maintenance person that will cover the city and the school district, so that there's collaboration between those districts, because right now, those two areas, because right now the city is the one responsible for the schools, and sometimes there has been in the past communication issues. That's the physical environment. The other environment that I'd like to speak to as well is the learning environment, which is really important, and especially the question coming from the NAACP. Wanted to mention the 2014 statement from the Department of Education and the Department of Justice, stating that we did need to look out for discriminatory discipline issues, and so that's another environmental thing that we need to look out for.
Jason?
Thank you for having me this evening. I think that's an important question on a number of levels. I think our buildings do need to be repaired. I think a plan needs to be put in place so that we don't have to constantly be going back and putting Band-Aids on problems. When I was on the board, I tried to institute plans where buildings could be repaired so that they were looked at and problems were solved when they came up. I think for far too long we put things aside. We worked very closely with the building committee, worked with the board, worked together as a board to put money in the budget, repair our schools, because we want our children coming to schools, since we're going to be having children from other districts coming. We want our schools to, when you come to school, you want to be learning in an environment that doesn't have leaks. We want our schools to look professional, you want to walk into buildings, people who come from out of town, people who come, stakeholders who come into the building need to see that our buildings are looking professional. So it's very important that the board works on that in the future.
We now go to group 2. Just want to make sure, are we giving everybody the same questions?
Second question.
We are not, so we go on to the next question. Thank you. Okay, here we go. Group 2, we are giving Scott Garbini. As we transition to an all-magnet district, what will you do to ensure that the district remains focused on the needs of our New London students and doesn't begin to prioritize the needs of white suburban students that we now need to attract?
Sorry, can you guys hear me? Thank you first and foremost. Couple of things is developing policy. Obviously, that's our #1 goal as a board, is to develop policy that is making sure that New London students are the ones getting the first priority in our schools. Specifically, the students that want to go to Nathan Hale, who might be from the first district and don't have that opportunity, or fighting with the lottery system that we have. So really trying to make sure that the processes that we have currently are taken care of, and that people are, that we're increasing policies right now. So like, I'm trying to think of restorative justice policies to really make sure that we're including our students, that we're not kicking out the students, and trying to really make sure that people are good. That's good, because I don't know. Do you stop?
No, you're okay.
I'm still good? Okay. I'll stop, because that's, stop.
Jefferson Harris?
Sorry.
Yes, thank you. The need for New London students really doesn't change with the magnet school system, because what we need is for all our students to be able to achieve mastery, not settle for proficiency, not settle for minimum wage jobs when they leave, or low-end college entrance, but get to the colleges they want, get to the jobs they want, succeed in life, come back and be part of the community as really successful members. And to do that, we need top-grade teachers, we need top-grade facilities. Thank you.
Zach Davis?
I would like to first start by thanking the Neighborhood Alliance, the New London NAACP, the New London Parent Advocates, and the League of Women Voters of Southeastern Connecticut for hosting this tonight. Thank you all for coming out. I believe as we transition into the magnet school, we all know that we have a certain threshold to hit in order to trigger the state funds that will come in and help supplement some of the revenues for the district. But our first and only priority should be to benefit the New London students that we have. At the end of the day, at the end of every meeting, at the end of every policy, the most important thing we can do is prioritize New London students and not pass policies that would be beneficial for students from suburban districts, but could harm our own children in our district. Thank you.
Okay. Rebuttal.
One thing that I have done in the past, let's say 6 months, is introduced and saw through an equity and diversity policy, which is a policy on all other policies to ensure that in any area in our district that there aren't discrepancies. And this directly applies to when we, I mean, it applies to so any area in our district, but directly applies to as well when we're having students come in from other districts to ensure that our scores are not raised through those other students, but we're actually looking at demographics and areas or groupings within the district, ensuring that we are taking care of everyone's needs.
Okay. We will now go to group 3. I'm sorry. That is Jason Morris. Okay.
I actually don't like the idea of let's not include students that are coming into our district in every policy that we make. I don't like that idea. I like looking at every single student, and because of this wonderful equity and diversity policy that was passed recently, we can look at our policy like that to make sure that we don't have discriminatory practices and misappropriation. Things like guidance services are things that New London needs. Things like more human interaction instead of more technology and taking the child away from real teachers is the kind of things we need.
Okay, any other rebuttals? Okay. Question 3, And that will start with Sylvia Potter. Yes, I did. New London has a single school resource officer from the police department that serves in the schools. There apparently isn't any memorandum of understanding or MOU in place amongst the police, the school system, and community members to guide him as recommended by the Department of Justice. Is there a need for an MOU in New London, and should creating one be a priority for the school board? Why or why not?
I want to begin by saying thank you for the opportunity to share our focus and our perspectives. Yes, I do believe that there is a need to have an MOU for a specific officer to be assigned to the schools and to have specific responsibilities, to be held accountable for the addressing the priorities and the needs of these students. I think it's a good thing. I think it builds community. I think it's also purposeful for our children to know that there is somebody in place specifically for them, but that they're held to a policy.
Aracelis?
Good evening, buenas noches. Definitely, I think that this is a huge issue and something that needs to be addressed, especially when we look at the high school, and there, I believe, we have a law enforcement program really to a place of like encouraging young people to seek this as a potential career, and if there are lack of men and women carrying that position and that role, that is an issue. I think having someone in this position at all schools also will help to empower our students for those who may have perceptions or realities and what these men or women carry due to what have you in their communities, would help to break these stereotypes and help to build a bridge between our law enforcement and also our community. So definitely, I think it's something that we need to look into, something that needs to be a priority when building the community together. Thank you.
Joe Garachi?
Thank you for the invitation. I think it goes without saying that the MOU is necessary, it's required. And it involves not just the Board of Education, but also the Police Commission. And it's a good start, a good way to get both bodies working together, which they should be doing anyway. In doing so, it will reinforce the Board of Education as a policymaker, and the same with the Police Commission. So that's something that definitely should be done. Thank you.
Jason Morris?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much to the New London Parent Advocates, League of Women Voters, NAACP, and Central Delta Community for having this. I love these debates. They're so much fun, actually, for me personally. So this memorandum of understanding is essential. It's actually being spread across the country right now. It is now state law that we must have one, thanks to a bill by Governor Malloy. And what it does is it clearly outlines the role of the police officer and in our school system, what they do so that they understand what their role is, and so that the administration in our schools understand what their role is. There is a big difference between the police officer's guidebook on assault and the school law that says this is bullying and what you do with bullying. In the school discipline working group I was working in for 8 months, we researched this. We found that police officers actually create more of a school to prison pipeline, and we need to have this MOU.
Any rebuttals? Okay, if not, we will then go to group 2 for the next question. Studies show that smaller classroom sizes have a positive impact on student performance. Would you support lowering classroom sizes at K through 12 level from 24 to 20, and in grades 3 to 12 from 28 to 24, even if it would mean a politically unpopular budget increase?
Yes. Yes, I would absolutely do that as for an unpopular vote. We need to have smaller classroom studies have proven that that's what is going to make our kids it's not gonna make our kids work, but it's a tool that will help and definitely get them to where they need to be. So yeah, absolutely, if it has to do with being popular and voting, I won't be the popular one. So yes, I would absolutely.
Jefferson Harris?
Well, I think a ratio of 28 teachers to each student would be about right in an ideal world. It's not exactly what we're looking at here. Yes, it is clear that we need smaller class sizes, but we need student engagement. And first-class teachers are what get that regardless of class size.
Zachary Levy?
Absolutely, I would vote to reduce class sizes. It is shown in studies and data that smaller class sizes lead to a better learning environment for students, and a way to increase student engagement would be by lowering the class sizes so that teachers have the ability to have a better individualized learning environment and a better ability to focus on each individual student to find what best fits for them so that they can have the best possible learning experience and have the best success that is available to them. And if that means a budget increase, I would absolutely support it. If that meant, going to the city council and supporting and advocating and trying to find a majority on the city council and with the mayor, I would absolutely do that. And if it was inevitably sent out to referendum, I would engage with community partners and parent groups to support and campaign vigorously so that we can have a positive yes vote on the budget. Thank you.
Rebuttal?
I would support reducing class size, but it's more than just reducing class size. There's a cost associated with it. Studies show that reducing class sizes in grades K through 3 is very beneficial to a student's education. Reducing class size in grades that are higher than that don't have as significant of an impact. That doesn't mean I don't want to reduce the size, but I want to use the funds where the funds are going to do the most good. And anytime, I'm sure I support a budget increase, but a budget increase is only going to go so far. If we ask for a 10% budget increase, it's not going to pass the voters. The voters are going to referendum, and it's going to get knocked down, unless we can really support that budget increase with what exactly we're spending it on.
I support reducing class sizes as well, but I do think that it also is the dynamics of the classroom. I've had very successful classrooms with 28 students in them, and I've had classrooms with 13 students that weren't the best classes. So it does depend on the teacher in the classroom. It does depend on what type of curriculum, what type of program, what type of principal, what type of school climate you have, what type of superintendent that you have supporting you. But ultimately, class size is 18 would be a good size. I know that we have students, class sizes that are large, and I would support lowering them.
As a former teacher and administrator, I will agree, smaller class sizes can be more effective. However, increasing taxes at this point in this city is going to be slightly more than unpopular. It might be worthwhile looking at reallocating funds.
Zach. I agree that a tax increase would probably be politically unpopular. However, when setting policies and investing in our children, investing in our education, sometimes you have to make politically unpopular decisions and hope that it works out for the best and not focus on your own re-election. Now, as we move forward, we should absolutely work with the superintendent to find efficiencies and savings, and also engage with the teachers union to see if they have any solutions to lower costs and allow for funds to be used to support hiring new teachers or reducing class sizes. But at the end of the day, politically unpopular or not, we have to do what's right for the children in our schools. Thank you.
I also agree in reducing class sizes. I think that we can only invest in our children in the beginning, and that what we instill in them now and what we give to them now will pay off in the future. We cannot chance to not have the time that we need to put into them or the money that we need to put into them to do it now. I think it's now. When? It's now. Thank you.
On smaller class sizes, yes, I've spoken to school building and maintenance committee, I've spoken to union representation, I've spoken to lower our taxes about different factors that were concerning in order to, or that we needed to take advantage of at this point in building phase in order to reduce class sizes. It's important in the lower grade in order to attend to our students' needs. And I think that what we need to do, of course, the monetary value is important and what we're getting for there, but we need to look at what else we can exchange in order for instance, technology in the lower grades is something that we can trade off, and there is a huge payback.
Okay, group 3, starting with Sylvia. The question is, what events in the last year on the Board of Ed are influencing your run for this year?
What events in the last year as a member of the board have influenced me to run? Is that
This year, correct.
First of all, I was very thankful and very proud to be a part of a selection group that selected the new superintendent. With him being from New London and part of New London schools, I knew then that he had a heart for the city. So that was my first and foremost goal. Secondly, I know that me being a result of New London schools, a former student of New London, I know what New London schools can give to the student, and I believe in staying involved to see that our children get what I can help ensure that they get in meeting of the better of an education.
Ourselves?
Like Sylvia, I would say we're in a good place with our new superintendent, Dr. Rivera. That has been very inspiring even for myself as a native New Londoner, seeing folks coming back who really want to give and really be present in our city and being a face to our city. Also, a lot of great things happen. We saw the restorative justice policy come through, our students really active and speaking now in our meetings. Along with also our magnet pathway and seeing where we're going with that, with new buildings, new schools, but a new population of young men and women who will really become the face and become the vision for our city. So a lot happened in a year, and I would definitely say that we are in a good place. Thank you.
Joe Garachi.
Well, I have not been on the board, so I can't say as a board member, or speak as a board member. But I can say that what I have been impressed with is your choice of a new superintendent. I've had the privilege of meeting with him, and I'm very impressed, not only with his credentials, but his philosophy of education. And I would be honored to work with him and as a board member and help him guide the magnet school program in New London.
Jason Morris.
So I've been in your spot for the past year, actually the last 3.5 years. I've been at just about every board of education meeting since I started this education policy work. And one of the things that I did over this past year was 8 months of research with a group called the School Discipline Working Group, where we researched restorative practices. We saw issues in our disciplinary system, and we brought a solution to the board in January with a presentation on here's how you can roll it out, this is what it is, and this is what it will do. And it was widely well received, and the board now started a pilot of it in our district. And I find that very inspiring and helpful, and I'm really happy about it. I've seen a shift away from, just in general, through state intervention, through policies that aren't so well researched and informed, away from human interaction, where we're pushing technology instead of quality instruction.
Okay, we are now going to the next question, which will start. I'm sorry, Buttles, excuse me.
I'm also a challenger, so I'm not speaking from a position on the board, but my interest here goes back to when we were first investigating the magnet school plan. My recommendation at that time was to develop a maritime arts and industries magnet school and focus New London on New London. That is critical to growth here, to bringing people together here, to expanding the grand list by homes here, and expanding our own student body by them being young
Over the last year, one of the greatest things I would say, probably over the last few years, is actually working with the students. The voices that we had from these students this past couple of years come in and actually not just plead their case, but bring the research in has been incredible, and that has probably been the biggest move or feeling for me to be a part of this last year, along with developing magnet schools and stuff, but the amount of students that just come in and talk with us. So.
Anyone else? Okay, we will move to group 1 for the next question. And Robert Funk. Minority candidates continue to complain about the denial of employment opportunities. What oversights should you promote to ensure fair access to employment?
And by minority candidates, I'm sorry.
Well, I would assume the Green Party, and I think amongst this group, that would be...
No.
Employment.
Employment.
Oh, I'm sorry, not minority candidates, then it's minority...
Candidates for
Employment.
Excuse me.
That's confusing.
Based on the data that we've reviewed, our ratio of minority students to minority teachers and administration is not one-to-one. It's skewed, but part of the reason why it's skewed is because the pool of applicants is skewed. We have a higher population of minority students in our schools, but of the teachers that are available in Connecticut and outside of Connecticut, there's a higher population of non-minority teachers. That being said, the board has taken steps in our diversity policy and in several meetings where we've discussed this, that we want to actively recruit minority teachers so that students are able to see role models that look like them. I absolutely recognize the importance to that. I want to make sure that we get in top quality teachers, regardless of where they come from or what they look like. We want top quality teachers, but in our recruitment efforts, we are able to go and target individuals that are minority.
Mern?
This is an area of concern, and like I said, it reminds me of a story of my 8th grade student when I started here at Benny Dover, when I was teaching at Benny Dover. I would take my students to Connecticut College, and I would take them to eat there, and I'd take them to look at sculptures, and I'd take them all around and show them that this campus, this ability to go to a college is something that's accessible to you, that's something that you should have as well. Several months into my time with these students, I had a great relationship with them. And I had this one 8th grader who shall remain nameless, but he's this tall 8th grader. I'm tall, he's taller than me, but looks down at me with this about 6-year-old looking face to me and looks down at me and he says, Miss, you don't just get out of the ghetto. So he's explaining to me that there are systems in place, in different language, he's explaining to me that there are systems in place that we need to change that system. And in the equity and diversity policy, there was some strong language to ensure that our staff look like our students.
Do we have any rebuttal? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me.
I think that the board should look at their policy that they do have in place, and I think that students do need to see themselves standing in front of them. I think they learn better seeing themselves as they're in the classroom. I think that we should set our standards high. I think it's important that they realize, I think we should have some type of recruitment program. When I was on the board, there was a lot of talk of having programs where students who were interested in being a teacher at the high school would visit the elementary schools. And I think programs like that, where we invite our students, we let them know that it is an attainable goal to become a teacher, become an administrator. And then I've served on a lot of hiring committees where we look at candidates, and I think that a lot of times when they walk in the room, I think a lot of the committee make a prejudgment automatically. I think that candidates on hiring committees need to be trained. so that they don't have that bias immediately when someone of another color or race walks in, and that we take them and we look at what they have to offer and we give them a fair chance at a position.
I think one of the key things is not only recruiting, but keeping them here in New London. You know, I want to see us partnering with our city. As a pastor, a local pastor in New London, serving New London, I live in New London, and it definitely makes a difference when I can tell my congregation I live with you. You know, so I think that our kids also need to see our teachers in the midst of their community living with them. So I think this will be an opportunity for our city to partner with various agencies, organizations, and how can we recruit but also keep them here in our city.
Jason Morris?
One of the things that I noticed watching the board was that they did not use their role in influencing state law. There are things they can do, like a memorial is what they're called, or resolutions you can make, where you say, this is something that we have identified, here are the reasons for it, and this is what we would like for you to do about it. And one thing that I'm going to be pushing this year, on the board or not, is a Grow Your Own Teacher Grant program, where students in urban poverty, most districts, get help to go to college so they can become teachers, and then they come back to their communities and teach for 5 years.
I think it's also important in the town that I work in, New Haven, we have something called the New Haven Promise, and I think there would be something like a New London Promise. What the New Haven Promise is, if you get all A's in high school, your college is going to be paid for by the district of New Haven and the city. And I think some type of program like that, if we bring that to New London and we encourage our high school seniors and freshmen as they come in as early as 8th grade, letting them know a straight A report card is going to get you a free ride in college. The New London Promise sounds good, and in New Haven we call it the New Haven Promise.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? Okay, we go on to group 3. Next question, starting with Sylvia Potter. Describe how the magnet programs will benefit New London students.
So I believe that the magnet programs will benefit the New London students in various ways, being that there will be a nice pool of diversity. There will be an opportunity for children to get other skills and or talents and or arts programs that they would have never had in a regular public school program. I think that the magnet school also brings in other funds that regular public school would not have been able to get. So there is such benefits to the magnet school program, and I'm all for it.
So I remember attending a neighborhood school, living here in New London. You only have one option. That was also true for high school. So it's really exciting after living in major cities throughout our country, and with my experience, seeing that students in other cities have options. This will provide our students options for them to grow, for them to excel in areas of that they're interested in, and also engage in that in their academics. It's exciting to hear that for those who are into the arts, will have the opportunity to enhance that part of who they are as they look forward to a college or university. Colleges and universities are looking for students, and to be honest, we want our kids to be up to par with other districts and other kids around our country, where they can say, you know what, they could come into a college or university with a portfolio, not just a high school diploma. So this will definitely provide options, and it will provide them with the skills needed for a better future.
Joe Garachi.
I can echo the last two speakers easily. Also, what it allows the students is to focus on their interests and go into in-depth studies on their areas of interest. It not only brings diversity of students, but a diversity of subjects and approaches to the educational process, rather than the lockstep in traditional classroom.
Jason Morris.
It's actually hard to add to all of that, but I will definitely try. We will get increased funding thanks to this, and some people have an issue, it's taxes in one way or another, but our school system across the state is underfunded in many ways, and we have a trial going forward in just a few months to prove that, which our governor was a part of submitting that trial, and now he's defending against it to push it aside. The things that magnet schools will also be bring back classes that are continuously being de-emphasized by our focus on test scores, like music, like art, like physical education, all these extra things that were always there. I always had PE every single day. I always had art every single day back when I was a kid. Why is it just a special now? Why do we get it once or twice a week? That's not okay. That's not a well-rounded education.
Do we have any rebuttals? Okay, we will now go on to the next question, which will be Group 1, Robert Funk. How would you implement more funding and resources going directly to the teachers?
What we're actually engaged in right now is revamping of our entire budgeting system. Any of you have ever tried to read the financial reports of the school, it's pretty much impossible to understand what's going on with them. And we're completely revamping them from the bottom up so that we can better understand exactly how we are spending our funding and how it's, what sort of results it's producing for us. And as a result, I'm expecting that we're going to find some areas where we're spending money and not really getting a return on it, and taking that funding and putting it into hiring more teachers would be the obvious answer to that. I guess that's it.
We need competitive teacher salaries. Right now, our teachers have not had increases for years, and they need to be able to compete with those districts around us. We've had a high teacher turnover. We need seasoned teachers. New, energetic teachers could be great with new ideas and all that, but it needs to be a balance, and we have to have seasoned teachers. It takes a while to really get your footings and understand how to take all of these individuals in your classroom, understand how it is that they individually learn and transform with them, help them to figure out how to learn. Also directing funding to your students, let's say the smaller class sizes, places that directly impact your students is funding your teachers if the question is geared towards the teachers, but directing it towards your students is directly for our teachers, because that's what we're working for, is having having our students succeed and move forward. Those teachers spend a lot of money of their own in order to have a successful classroom.
Jason Catella?
Can you repeat that question again, please?
Okay, how would you implement more funding and resources going directly to the teachers?
I think there needs to be a high emphasis on getting large grants so that it's so that there's dollars that can be put in place for teachers. I think that there can be programs put in place so that there are after-school opportunities for teachers to run programs. Currently, in the district I work in, we have something called the Super Tutor Program, and teachers have to stay after school and they get an hourly stipend, and that's from a $58 million grant that New Haven was able to get across district. That the dollars go directly into the teachers' pockets, and they implement programs for after-school programs so that the day is extended and that they have opportunities to make additional dollars as well. I think that we need to, when we do our budget, look at, I definitely agree with Myrna with salary increases. If you look at New London salaries, they are close to the bottom. When I first got on the board in 1997, New London was close to the top, and now we are close to the bottom. But we also have to look at ways that we can budget increases in their salaries.
Do we have any rebuttals?
One of the problems that we've got with teachers is that we expect them to be the very front line the first responders on all the issues with our children and how those schools interact with the community, right down to mental health issues and protection from danger. We expect advanced degrees out of them, expect very advanced practice, and then we treat them effectively like assembly line workers. Eventually, teachers are going to have enough, and they're going to form professional organizations where they're autonomous, set their own fees, and dictate to the school system what will happen.
I think that as we go through the budget process, we need to prioritize our spending to what is most beneficial for the students, but also what is most beneficial to the teachers. One way is to make our salaries more competitive, so that not only are we attracting teachers, we're also retaining them. But in the budget process, we should also work on finding non-economic ways to retain teachers and make their job more fulfilling for them through professional development or different avenues working with the superintendent to find these solutions that aren't necessarily tied to just how much their salary is. Thank you.
Any other thoughts? Okay. This will be group one, the next question. What is your position on increasing resources for special education? Yes? No? Yeah, we did repeating one because they were the last in the last round. And now they're the first again. What is your position on increasing resources for special education? Can you comment on programs New London has for special education students?
First of all, I think that the allocations that we make towards special education should be in some way tied to the funding that we receive for special education. The state and the federal government provide many mandates on special education, and they don't fund them. New London has a much higher incidence of special ed students than any of the other districts around here, but yet we're the poorest district in the area. And this is not meant to be that we shouldn't be serving special ed students. Absolutely, we need to serve special ed students to every degree that they need. But because we have limited resources, it results in all of the regular ed students having less and less and less and less spent on their education. And so I think that it's very important that we tie the cost of special ed to the funding and understand exactly what in addition we are spending on that we go to the state and seek additional funding from the state so that we are adequately funded to provide the services that we need to provide. Thank you.
Myrna?
Sorry, could you repeat it?
What is your position on increasing resources for special education? Can you comment on programs New London has for special education students?
A 10, 11-year-old case that Jason Morris referred to in a rebuttal that he made is CJEF. It's the Connecticut Coalition for Justice and Education Funding, which has found that our funding system here in Connecticut is not just and equitable. And one of the reasons, not the only one of them, has to do with special education funding that is mandated by the state, and because of trauma, because of various reasons, they tend to be, special ed numbers are higher in urban districts such as ours, and because of the way that funding happens that is not district-wide, that is through each community, it is not fair. The trial will be going to court apparently in January. It was supposed to be this past. And so there is about lobbying our representatives for better reimbursement for special ed costs.
I think it's very important that we do take that question seriously with special education students and looking at funding for them. I think on the flip side, what is also included in special education is gifted education. That is also a part of our special education law, and I think that we need to look at that as well. I think that we need to service the entire special ed population to the best of our ability. We need to lobby the state. Many years ago, they were kicking up more funds than they're giving us now. These are mandates coming down from the state, and I think that they need to, we need to lobby our legislators, our senators, even if we have to go to the federal government. They need to step up, they need to help us as our population increases, they need to help us, and we also need to work on over-identification. For many years, that was also somewhat of a problem where there were too many people being identified for certain reasons that maybe were not SPED related. So over-identification, looking at all aspects of the SPED law and servicing them.
Rebuttal? No. Jason Morris.
As a board member, I would be touring our special education services like higher roads, probably quarterly. I've heard too many cases that were not very encouraging, not great experiences that parents and students have had in higher roads and in our special education services where behavioral issues or disabilities, etc. And so those kids that don't have as much of a voice, they need us to be there to see what they're experiencing and be their voice.
Any others? Okay, move on to the next question, and that will be to Scott. Given the recent mass murder events, how is it best to protect our schools? Should we arm teachers?
No. I'm sorry. No. I can't even imagine what it would be like walking into school with a bunch of people, with the armed teachers with guns. Obviously there's an issue, and I know Board Member Martinez and I walked around at the beginning of the year. We were looking at some of the schools, and the doors were a little iffy in the back. I think it was by the restrooms, and we had some questions, and things have happened since then. We need to develop policy that is going to make sure that our students are safe. We have federal and state laws that we have to follow. We need to make sure that our schools are actually built with those specifications as well. If in this day and age, if somebody wants to harm a school, they're going to do it some way or another. I don't want to have students going to school where they know that their teacher is packing a 9mm every day. I can't even imagine, because then we're going to get into whose is bigger. And I just don't see that as an effective thing in schools. No.
Jefferson Harris.
It's not a good idea to arm teachers. Really, that makes a parent-teacher conference really good. What we need to do is approach the problem from a place of superiority over the people that have the problem. We need to stop making celebrities out of them, and we need to stop the chain of what looks like we get quite a few copycats going on in one way or another. And we need cooperation with the entertainment industry to quit glorifying this kind of violence. And we need a lot of things, but pulling a gun on either side is not a good option.
Zach?
That would be insane. The last thing we need in schools is to have more bullets flying around in the event of a tragedy. There is no response that would fully put how insane I think it is to arm teachers. As we build new schools, we should be focusing on security and making sure that our buildings are secure. But I agree with what Scott said, that people who want to undertake these heinous acts are going to undertake them. And I agree with Jefferson that we need to focus on not making them celebrities. I believe that the Oregon shooting is actually a good example of that. The only person I remember from that is Chris Mintz, who got in the way of the gunman and stopped him and took 7 bullets for it. That is what we should be focusing on as we build these new buildings, though. We can work to make sure that they're as secure as possible, but no, under no circumstances should we arm teachers, and I will never vote for that on the Board of Ed.
I guess what I'm hearing is we need to really focus on mental health. And I know that's placing a lot of stuff down in school, but as a country, we need to start focusing on mental health. It's not just a community here in New London, it's not just a Newtown thing. Mental health is an issue. I suffer myself, I know that, and it really needs to be addressed in this country because we just keep making it it's all in your head, it'll get better, and it's not getting better.
Anybody else?
I have 2 rebuttals left, and I'm actually going to use this rebuttal for an earlier question. I guess that's the accountant in me. I want to make sure I save up and have what I need to use in the end. The question was, what has occurred on the board this year that has influenced my decision to run as a candidate again? And what happened was I came onto a board that was not able to receive any financial information that made any sense whatsoever. We battled with the superintendent, we got nothing. And so my goal when I came onto this board was to improve the process so that we'd be able to actually use financial data for a purpose. And
Oh, you want to use it?
yeah, I'll use them both.
Oh.
And so, unfortunately, there was a delay in hiring a new superintendent, but the superintendent that we now have is very willing to work on this, and he really recognizes the importance of using financial information in decisions. And so where I thought that my work would be pretty close to done in that area by now, that work is just starting, and I feel like I really need to spend the next 2 years continuing and finishing that process.
I think your question should be, how do we make our schools safer? I think if you're going to make the building safer, I'm sorry, I think if you want to make the building safer, you need to make the outside safer. Through continued outreach programs, cooperation with the police department and other community agencies to prevent even the thought of this happening in our buildings. All right, so yeah, keep the schools safe, but just keep the community safer.
Okay, we are going to the last question now. Can you believe it? We're almost near an hour, and that will go to group 2. Are you interested in...
Group 3.
Group 3. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Everybody needs an assistant. Okay, are you interested in stopping the school-to-prison pipeline? If so, what legislation will you create to address this issue? Start with Sylvia.
What legislation would I create?
That's what they're asking for.
I would support legislation to make sure that the right services are in place to make sure that those are not, an issue. I don't believe I can create legislation, so, definitely support what is moved in that favor.
So we know that this is an issue, specifically in communities like ours, where we see statistics showing that our Latino and Black males are increasingly the majority in our prisons. A lot of them are dropouts within our school system. So before we get to the legislation, please, I think it's what are we doing right now to serve them right now? What are we doing to serve this our community, even in our K through 5th grade level. So I will focus my attention, yes, to support law, but also begin to think of what are we doing in terms of our schools, programs. I would say, our middle school is like, the middle child, just there, and that's where a lot of things are happening. So in reality, that's an area that we need to focus on. There are not many programs for our middle school students, after school programs, so really seeing what type of programs we can offer. And I definitely want to give a shout out to my brother, Officer Nolan, because he's done a great job in supporting our students, and being that voice. So we need more of Officer Nolans in our community. Thank you.
Joe?
I remembered. Before I was a teacher in education, I was a police officer. But I served and saw firsthand that pipeline from school to prison. Again, to address the issues, it requires a community effort. But I also believe it requires the Board of Education to take the lead, because that's the big policy maker. And again, through outreach programs, through community programs, cooperation with all departments, and strong leadership from the mayor on down, is the only way to get into that pipe and block it from flowing. Thank you.
Jason Morris?
So I've been actually directly involved in this work, as I stated earlier, with 8 months of research and the presentation and such with the community group, which involved community activists, church leaders, students, professors, teachers, teacher union president, students from the high school, and we got restorative practices pilot in our system, and that was a great success. That's going to be one way that we're going to reduce this school prison pipeline, because we're going to prioritize restoring relationships between students and teachers, and in the entire school community, rather than prioritizing removing them from the school community for a few days, where many people think, oh, it's just a vacation for the kids that just got in a fight and now they're suspended. It's not a vacation, and we shouldn't be giving them any kind of thought that, hey, you get 3 days out of school if you get in a fight. We're going to talk about this, we're going to bring in the parents, and we're going to fix this.
Time. Okay, any rebuttals? Sylvia?
Also, in thinking more on that, we also during the year, after talking about that, when we had the students from Hearing Youth Voices coming speaking to us, it was really pertinent that we stress the partnership in the community. It is really necessary for us in social services, for those of us that are members of church services and community, and parents to come out and really work as a whole. A lot of times, we say things and we're looking forward to having things work, but we need to come together, come to these meetings, and as a whole, see what we all can do. It does take a village, and it's not just me, it's not just you, but it's all of us. That's what I just thought.
Any other rebuttals? Okay, we come to closing statements now. It is 8 o'clock, up to now, no, 8:02. Are you ready, Robert? 90 seconds.
I'm Rob Funk, and I'm running for re-election to the New London Board of Education. I ask for your vote on November 3rd. My area of expertise is finance. The New London Board of Education needs a member that understands finance. Along with the administration, we're now developing and reconfiguring the budget process to make it more readable, to use valuable input from more people and groups, to make strategic decisions based on cost-benefit analysis, to make sure that we are truly getting the most benefit to our students for the dollar, to increase and improve our fiscal transparency and build greater trust in the community. As a board member that understands finance, I'm an integral part of this process. I'm the one that can work with the administration and the financial consultants in the city and speak the language. I know what is reasonable to expect, and I know when something looks wrong. The New London all-magnet schools are the key to the city's future. The urban centers were historically the places leading the way economically, socially, and educationally. As we develop and hone our school district, New London will increasingly become the first choice for people in the region to live, to educate their children, to shop, and to buy a home. The diversity of our community is through the diversity of our community, it's our greatest asset. And as we share diversity, it will improve the lives of all involved. I play a critical role in the upcoming consolidation of the school and city finance departments. I come to board meetings prepared, and I do my homework, and I'm able to see the different sides of an issue. I'm skilled at seeing what we want in the future, the steps to get there, and potential pitfalls on the way. As the current vice president of the board and the chairman of the Finance and Audit Committee, I provide leadership as well.
Time.
The opportunity to finish what I started with New Public Schools.
Myrna.
I'm looking to see an engaging, young person-centered or developmentally appropriate, equitable school system. We're on our way with new leadership, with the work that we've done. What I've done to move us in that direction is I've advocated for smaller class sizes, once again creating opportunities with a smaller class size, creating opportunities for us to be able to engage time for developmentally appropriate activities. Like I said, I introduced and saw through the passing of the equity and diversity policy. Obviously, it attends to the equitable piece, but also equity does not just mean, equity could mean in attending to different learning styles, that we are creating a system that is engaging for those of all learning abilities and styles. These are my issues, the issues that I care about, equity, developmentally appropriate, engaging, but as Rob said, with anything that comes before us on the board, I am diligent and conscientious and bring common sense to the issues.
Jason Catella?
My name is Jason Catella, and I'm looking to get back on the Board of Education. I spent 10 years on the board. It started out in 1997 at the age of 23. I spent 2 years in the City Council. I'm looking to return to the board because there were a number of things that went on when I was on the board that I wanted to get back into and finish. I was on the board when the all-magnet school plan was implemented and started, and I feel that I need to get back into that so I can see those schools come to fruition. I spent the last 2 years writing letters to the editor, stating my opinion on education issues and other issues as well. And I'm hoping to get back on the board also because I really think that the board needs to work on a strong policy committee. I spent some time as chair of the policy committee, then the policy committee went away, and I know that this current board has done a nice job in working on getting policies in place, but I do think we need a policy committee that was strong back in the 90s and early 2000s where they meet often, put policy in place, work closely with CAPE, so that we take in policies, because that is the main goal of the Board of Education, is to implement policy, make policy, and see that the superintendent carries out those policies. For the 10 years that I was on the School Board of Education, I had a perfect attendance record, as well as on the City Council, so I take the role very seriously, and I hope to have your vote on November 3rd. Thank you.
Scott?
Good evening, everybody. How is everybody doing so far? My name is Scott Garbini, and I'm running for re-election, and I look for your vote as well, or hope to have your vote on November 3rd. Those of you that know me know a couple of things about me. I'm passionate. I have a voice. I'm Sicilian, and I use it. And I like to be the voice of the kids. Those are the people that we are ultimately here representing. We write policy. We have one employee, that's the superintendent, but ultimately we have all the students in the district. So writing policies these past few years have been some of the most rewarding things. Working on the attendance policy, the restorative justice policy, the credit loss policy, working on things like that with the actual students and having them come in and speak has been tremendous for me. My daily job, I'm an educational consultant, so I'm working with students, I'm teaching them life skills, we're working on the transitions between high school and college and what that really means and what we expect of students in that 3 months between high school and whatever September brings, whether it's a job, a career, higher education of some sorts. We need to be the voice for these kids to make sure they have the skills, and that's why I'm looking to rerun again, is to make sure that our students and our children in New London have those opportunities.
Jefferson Harris?
Yes, Jeff Harris. I've been a teacher or a learning administrator for a little over 30 years. Currently, I'm the educational technologist for Pfizer with 147,000 students. And my interest here in New London is twofold. One is to make sure that the inherent character of New London gets carried through in all its efforts, including the school system. And also to strip away the side issues, but get an understanding, very well understood, that the interaction between the students and the teachers is what's critical. The magic that happens when learning happens is the most important thing we can do. Everything to enable that is what we need to do. And if we fail in that, we fail both our students and our city and our country.
Thank you. Zach?
Good evening, I'm Zach Levy. I want to thank the sponsors of this event as well as everyone for attending tonight and giving myself and all of us up here the opportunity to discuss education in the city. I'm running because I believe that the magnet school conversion plan and education in this city is at a transformative point, not only for the students and education, but also for our city. Our city is defined by how we view education and how we prioritize our children. I believe that with this magnet school plan, as we develop it and implement it and see the benefits of it, not only for New London students, but bringing in the diversity from surrounding districts, that we'll be able to provide a quality education that increases opportunities for every single student But we should also be doing this so that every student that steps foot in the building knows that they are valued, not only from their teachers, not only from their educators and principals, but from our entire community as a whole, knowing that we believe in them, that we can trust them, that we can provide an education system that will increase opportunities for them if they choose to enter the workforce or if they choose to go into higher education, whatever is best for them. That's why I'm running, because as someone who bought a home and will be starting my family of my own at some point in the future, I want to have a school district where we know that the children are prioritized and we are defined by being an educational resource for not only New London, but for our entire region. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Sylvia Potter, incumbent for the Board of Education for my third term. Look forward to continuing to support our teachers, our students, our families, and of course, our Board of New London. I think that we have a wonderful board here. I'm proud to say that already creating restorative justice policy, reducing out-of-school suspensions, having open transparency and continuing to do so, reducing class size, sustaining the funds coming from the state to continue with this magnet school program, that is our goal, our focus, and that is what I want to be successful legacy that I leave in this town.
Ourselves.
Thank you everyone for being here. I'm Reverend Aracelis Vasquez Hay, and I'm running for re-election. And it's pretty much personal in many ways. I am a native of New London, and I also just gave birth to a baby 6 months ago. And so I want my child to live in a city that understands the importance of, that the city's vision truly starts with its educational system. And I want to be a part of that. I want to live in a city where there's a lot of pride in learning and growing and just the idea of just cultivating just life within its city. So that's really one of the many, well, two of the many reasons why I'm running again. I'm also committed to supporting the district's vision, supporting our superintendent, completing our magnet pathways, working to reduce, as we've all shared, many of us, our class sizes, seeing the need for universal pre-K, and continuing the connection and partnership with local communities. As a clergy member, I think it's important to utilize the churches and agencies as partners, and we've seen that really clear in the Vision for New London. If you have not seen the amazing video, something to watch for in terms of our vision. And obviously continuing policy development as we continue to make our schools better, safer, and more attractive. So I'm just going to ask that you join me in uniting to live in a better New London, and we could do that together. Thank you.
Joe Garachi.
Yes, my name is Joe Gerasi. I'm one of the rare Republicans in New London. You have to look hard, but we're there. This evening, you didn't hear anyone argue the worth of education, because we all agree on that. What we differ is our methods of accomplishing our goals in education, and that's healthy. I shared my opinion with you, the choice is yours. We talked much about diversity of students in schools. I think it would be healthy for New London if on the Board of Education we had a diversity of opinions and where we're coming from. It's healthy. I can't make any promises because I'd only be one member of 7. But I can bring 35 years of educational experience to the table, both as a central office administrator and acting principal at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. It's with those credentials that I hope would make a difference, not only for the Board of Education and the students of New London, but for New London as a whole. It's my town too.
Jason Morris.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Morris. I'm with the Green Party running for Board of Education. I came here in 2001. I met New London in 2001 when I came here from the Navy. I spent 10 years active duty in the Navy, and I left it in 2011 as an IT professor, still now in the reserves. I'm a father of 3 and a homeowner for the past 6 years. My kids go through the public school system, and in 2011, I finished my enlistment and dedicated my energy to making a difference in my city. Board of Ed meetings are where I've been for the past 3.5 years. And I think that my history and body of work through teamwork and through solo advocacy really tells the story of my dedication to the school system and our students. I know how to make positive change through cooperation and on my own. Through solo work, as a person, say, in your place, in the audience, I've directly influenced the rewriting of policy and the end of an unnecessary punishment practice on our elementary students. For these 3.5 years, I have identified, researched, and proposed solution to our board members throughout the entire time. This is not a hobby, it's what I do. And I'm not vague, I give concrete facts. I hope New London recognizes my passion for this work, my dedication to the best interests of our students, and my proactive approach I take towards policy. I don't wait for the state intervention or law to come down. I identify issues and have a tenacity to execute solution.
Thank you. And you see a sign that says Peg Curtin, who is a Democratic incumbent. She regrets that she's not able to leave rehab following her hip surgery. Peg supports the magnet school concept, the agreement with the Gart Arts Center, and full transparency in the budget process. She looks forward to working with the city and the school administration in crafting a budget that works for all concerned. Wanted to let you know, well, before we do that, let's give a round of applause. I wanted you to know that the forum has been taped and will be rebroadcast or be broadcast